The second day of Suboptic 2013 began with the conference opening and welcome. Representatives of both Suboptic and our host, Alcatel-Lucent, took the stage to say a few words about the purpose of the conference and hopes for the future of the industry. Richard Elliott, chairman of the program committee, opened the proceedings with some comments on the keynote speaker. He was followed by Fiona Beck, president of the Suboptic Executive Committee. She began by saying how the industry is more important to the global economy than ever before, and for that reason, collective efforts like Suboptic have a special role to play as a volunteer organization benefiting the industry as a whole.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Bienvenue à la Suboptic 2013. C'est un plaisir d'organiser cette conférence dans une belle ville comme Paris. As although many of us are fierce competitors, we are also an industry steeped in tradition, skills and experience, and above all, camaraderie. Our industry is more relevant to the world economy than ever before. Economic and social development in nearly every country around the world leverages off the technological solutions our industry provides. And as an industry, we now have a greater set of responsibility to the countries and customers we serve. We are much more than enablers of communication and information sharing across the globe. We are now a critical component of the global economic and social infrastructure.
Immediately following the welcome was the keynote speech by noted journalist and scientist Matt Ridley, and he had a hopeful and powerful message. He made a particular point of saying that as an industry that connects the world, telecoms has a role and responsibility in the sharing of ideas and the creation of innovation. The second day also held the first oral sessions. A number of remarkable papers were presented for review by peers in the industry. Among them was a paper presented by Mike Cuddington of BT. The presentation explained the benefits of utilizing the Automated Identification System, or AIS, in helping to protect cables from accidental damage by ships.
AIS is basically a system whereby vessels transmit their position along with a whole load of other information, originally designed for safety at sea. But if you receive that signal on shore, you can then overlay real-time vessel position with submarine cables. And so once you've got the relationship between those two, you can start thinking about proactive protection to try and prevent cables being broken by ships.
And your company, BT, already uses it?
Yeah, we use it extensively around the UK. We've found it extremely useful in protecting subsea cables, and we run it in a proactive mode. So basically we're looking to try and generate alarms before a cable gets broken, and we will intervene when we think there's a situation that warrants it.
How widely used otherwise is it?
A lot of operators do use AIS globally, but there is still a lot of room for additional take-up. Certainly, I'm aware of both consortias and private cable owners that have heard of it. They're aware of it, but they're not quite sure how to really start adopting it. And there are a number of elements that you need to consider, which was covered in the paper. But in essence, it's fairly straightforward to use. And from a cost perspective, the costs involved are really a fraction of the cost of a cable repair. So in a way, it should be a fairly straightforward business case to implement an AIS system to protect your subsea cable.
Later in the day, guest speaker Chris Burke gave a speech with a tough message about the global selling market.
And what I hear right now as a refrain throughout the entire industry is, it's really, really tough out there.
According to Burke, you're more and more often dealing with executives that don't know the product you're selling.
Business performance has lacked over the last 10, 20 years against expectations in the communications industry specifically. And what has happened is people have started to think that maybe other industries hold a superior solution. So they may be hiring in from retail, they may be hiring in from pharma, but they're people from out of market or out of sector or out of industry, and they're trying to understand the industry and trying to add value. And what painfully many companies are realizing is that they don't have the contextual knowledge to add the value that is required in this new industry, but they've largely destroyed much of our own industry, and the the rising people that will take positions of power and authority over time. So I think there's been a lot of self-destruction going on.
In his speech, Burke laid out a step-by-step plan that can effectively be summarized as treat your customer as an investor and not a buyer. More oral presentations were held. The session on dry plant technology was so well attended that there were practically no open seats. Both presentations by Neil Bergano of TE Subcom and Gabriel Charlet of Bell Labs spoke on advancements in capacity and spectral efficiency.
So, what I thought I would do in this afternoon's talk is start out with discussing what the importance of coherent is going to mean to our industry and really how it impacts capacity. Then I want to talk a little bit about the relationship between spectral efficiency, bandwidth, and capacity, and hopefully in the process dispel some misconceptions you might have. We'll look at what the first generation of transponders will do for capacity, and then we'll take a look at the future.
Tomorrow will feature Ed Parsons, the geospatial technician for Google, giving a keynote speech, followed by a roundtable on finance. Follow STF today on subtelforum.com for the latest of Suboptic 2013 coverage. This episode was brought to you by Suboptic 2013 and AP Telecom.